Miss King here, and in this screencast we're going to be looking at organic chemistry. So to start, there are going to be six elements that are going to be a very big part of our lessons. The first one being carbon, the most important of those six elements. And then hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur will play a big role in the organic compounds that we're going to look at. So why is carbon so special? Well, the molecule has 4 valence electrons. That means 4 electrons in its outer shell that can be used to make bonds. So because of those 4 valence electrons, carbon has the ability to form single bonds, represented with 1 line, double bonds, which is represented with 2 lines, and triple bonds, which are represented with 3 lines. Those different kinds of bonds also give carbon the ability to form straight chains, and they're lined up in a straight line. Ring structures, where they're kind of forming a circle. And then branch chains, where we have a straight line of carbons. And then some individual carbons can branch off of that, kind of like a tree branch. Now, because carbon likes to bond with other carbons, this gives it the ability to form these very long carbon molecules. Simple carbon molecules are called monomers, and they're like single units. And then we can also make what are called polymers, which are very large molecules, meaning many units. This is kind of what that looks like. So if we have some monomer units, we can take those carbon bonds and we can use that to put them together to form polymers, which are very large molecules. And we call those large molecules macromolecules. Macro means large. And because they contain carbon, we call them organic. So the organic compounds that we're going to study in this unit are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. These are the 4 molecules that basically make up your entire body. The picture that's on the screen is a cell, and your body is made of cells. Remember, all living things must have cells. So you can see that within the cell we have nucleic acids, we have proteins, and we have sugars or carbohydrates, and of course fats, and those are what basically make up the parts of your cells. So we're going to start with carbohydrates. To start with, carbohydrates have 3 elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And you can actually tell within the name carbohydrate which elements are included. Carbo means carbon, and hydra is a word bite that means water, and we know water is H2O. So here's our hydrogen and here's our oxygen. So carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now, carbohydrates are made up of single sugar monomers called monosaccharides. Mono meaning 1, and saccharide meaning sugar. So these are just simple sugars. These are like the building blocks of carbohydrates. Their formula is C6H12O6. So we have 6 to 12 to 6. Well, that's the ratio if we reduce it down, 1 to 2 to 1. So they will always be in this 1 to 2 to 1 ratio when we look at their chemical formulas. The main monosaccharide that we're going to study is glucose. Fructose and galactose are also monosaccharides. So let's take a look at glucose. This is glucose in its ring structure, and then we can also look at it in its linear structure, and we're actually going to draw linear glucose. So let's take a look at that. Let me change my pen color. The first thing we need to do is put the formula. We know we need C6, so that means 6 carbons, H12, so that's 12 hydrogens, O6, so that's 6 oxygens. So the first thing we want to start with is our carbons. So So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my 6 carbons. Now this first carbon, this is carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, carbon 5, and carbon 6. On carbon 1, we need to have a single bonded hydrogen and a double bonded oxygen. Okay? Now, the way I remember how to draw linear glucose is on this side of my first carbon, I have a single hydrogen. So I'm going to put single hydrogens except on the special third carbon all the way down this side of the molecule. Kind of like that. Now I have an oxygen on this side, so I'm going to come down and I'm going to put OH except on that special third carbon on each one of those carbons, kind of like that. And then I'm going to come down here and fill in my last bond with hydrogen. Now I need to fill in my third carbon, my special carbon here, and what I'm going to do is flip my OHs and my H's. So on this side I'm going to put the OH, and on this side I'm going to put the single H. So if you can remember that the single H's go on this side and the OH's go on the side with the oxygen, except on this third carbon. Okay, and that is linear glucose. Alright, now we can take our glucose molecules and we can put them together to form disaccharides. Di is a word bite that means 2. So in this case, 2 sugars, or double sugars, and you'll notice with the formula we've pretty much doubled that, C12H22O11. We have 3 different disaccharides. We have sucrose, lactose, and maltose. And if we look at each one of those, sucrose is common table sugar, and we get that from combining glucose and fructose together. And you can see in this picture, here's a single sugar, and here's a single sugar, and they're bonded together in the middle to make that double sugar structure. So when you put sugar on your Cheerios, this is the molecule that you're going to eat. Lactose is a major sugar found in milk. Lact means milk, and we get lactose when we combine glucose and galactose together. So here in this picture is our 2 single sugars, and they're combined together here with this oxygen in the middle. And then maltose is a product of starch digestion, and it is formed when we combine glucose and glucose together. So here is our 2 single sugars, and they're combined together again with the oxygen in the middle. So disaccharides are made through a process called dehydration synthesis. This is a type of condensation reaction. Condensation, if you think about your tea glass and you have some ice in your glass, and if you let it sit for a little while, water starts to form on the outside of the glass. That's condensation. And that's basically what happens when we combine 2 single sugars together. So you see right here, let me turn my pen on, change that color. We have an OH here, and we have an OH here, and these 2 molecules are separated. But if we take this OH and that H, that's 2 H's and an oxygen, we're going to form water. So if we take those away and then bind this carbon with this oxygen, then this is what we will get. As a result, now these 2 molecules are connected together. So this is called a dehydration synthesis. We are making a molecule by taking out water or dehydrating it. Hydrolysis is the exact opposite of that. If we want to break apart our double sugar here, our disaccharide, then we can add that water back in, and it will break the bonds between the carbons and the oxygen, and then we'll get our single sugars back. All right, now complex carbohydrates are called polysaccharides, poly meaning many. So we'll have many sugars that are connected together, and these are going to be our very long chain, or our macromolecules. And the three polysaccharides we're going to look at are starch, cellulose, and glycogen. Now, starch is a type of carbohydrate found in plants. This is what the plants use for their food. So if we take lots and lots of single sugars and connect them together to form long chains, we'll get starch. Cellulose is also found in plants, and this is a substance that plants use for their cell wall, which provides support for the structures. Again, we can connect lots of single sugars together to get a long macromolecule chain. Think about corn. The little hulls in each one of these corn kernels is made of cellulose, and we actually can't digest that. So when we eat corn, the cellulose portions of the corn kernels actually just pass straight through our system, and that's why sometimes when we eat corn, it kind of comes back out the way that it went in. Glycogen is a type of carbohydrate that animals store for energy in liver and muscles. All right, so carbohydrates can be found in all of these different kinds of foods. These are good carbs, what we would really want to consume a lot of: fruits and vegetables, breads, pastas, potatoes. These are what we call bad carbs, because these are just pure sugar. So candy and chocolates and things like that are, although they're carbohydrates, they're really not good for us. The function of carbohydrates is for quick energy, usable energy. Energy found in your food is called a calorie. It's just the unit that we use to measure that energy. And 1 gram of carbohydrates contains 4 calories. So let's take a second to look at calories. Calories are basically the amount of heat that are needed to raise the temperature of 1 milliliter of water by 1 degree Celsius. So it is a measurement of energy stored in an organic molecule. The energy found in carbohydrates depends on how many bonds we have between carbons and hydrogens. This is where the energy is stored in a molecule, is in the bonds. So the more carbon-hydrogen bonds we have, the more energy the structure will give us. And calorie needs are based on lots of different things. Sex, males actually need more calories than females. Age, younger people need more calories than older people. Their bodies are still growing and going through lots of processes, so they need more calories. Body mass and physical activity are also some factors that play in how many calories our body needs. So what happens if you eat more calories than your body can burn? Well, those extra calories get stored as fat. So they get converted into fat and stored in your body, and that's what causes you to gain weight. Okay, and that is carbohydrates. In our next screencast, we will look at lipids, or fat molecules.